They say empaths are healers, that their hearts are open, that they feel deeply, that they carry the pain of the world as if it were their own. But Carl Jung would have looked at that differently. He would have seen something darker, something more dangerous. Because not every empath is a healer. Sometimes an empath is a sponge, soaked in the toxins of others' pain. And sometimes the pain they carry doesn't even belong to the people they're trying to help. It belongs to something far older, far more invisible, far more cunning. Carl Jung believed the unconscious mind had a will of its own, that it moves beneath our awareness, like a shadow with its own motives. And when an individual is sensitive, porous, and highly emotionally attuned, that shadow doesn't vanish. It adapts, it hides, it seduces. Empathy is a powerful gift, but in the wrong hands, in unconscious hands, it becomes a gateway, a silent pact with suffering, a channel through which the psychic pain of generations can flood in and disguise itself as virtue. That's why Jung warned that those who feel too much often aren't living from their own soul. They're possessed, not by spirits or demons in the religious sense, but by the unmetabolized trauma of their family, by the psychic wounds of the culture, by the silent screams of a parent's unlived life. The empath, in this view, is not born. They are made, forged in homes where boundaries were blurred, where emotions weren't named but absorbed, where the child learned not to feel their own needs, but to read the room like a sixth sense, where silence was a language, where rage wasn't spoken but swallowed, where the child became the parent's therapist, caretaker, and emotional anchor, and in doing so, forgot they were a child at all. I once knew a man named David. By 10 years old, he could tell whether his mother was about to cry just by the way she put down her teacup. He'd rush in, hug her shoulders, whisper that everything would be okay, even when he didn't understand what was wrong. By 12, he was managing the moods of a grown woman. By 15, he felt like her emotional parent. No one ever asked how he was doing. No one noticed that he hadn't smiled in months. Today, David's in his 30s. Everyone says he's so compassionate, so sensitive, so easy to talk to. But what they don't see is the exhaustion behind his eyes. The man still scanning every room like he did as a boy, still carrying pain that was never his to begin with. So what happens when that child grows up? They become the nice one, the good listener, the one who's always there for you. But deep down, they're haunted, not by ghosts, but by patterns, by energies that are not theirs, but live through them. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Empaths often mistake absorption for love. They think carrying others' pain makes them strong. But strength isn't about how much you can hold. It's about what you choose to carry, and whether that weight is even yours to bear. Most people think of empathy as the highest form of compassion. But Jung would challenge that, because sometimes empathy is just hypervigilance in disguise. It's not a gift. It's a survival mechanism. It's what happens when your nervous system gets trained, from a young age, to scan for danger in the emotional field of others. Because if mum's mood changes, your world collapses. If dad's silent, you feel like you've done something wrong. If people are upset, it must be your job to fix it. So you develop radar, emotional antennas so finely tuned, they can pick up pain before it's even spoken. And you call that empathy, but is it, or is it the residue of emotional trauma, masquerading as spiritual virtue? The truth is, empaths often confuse feeling others with knowing themselves. They build identities around being needed, and the more they're needed, the more they disappear. They lose track of where they end and others begin. And that's when the real danger starts. Because if you can't tell what's yours, you become vulnerable to manipulation. You attract wounded people not because you're healing them, but because you're playing out the same trauma script again and again. You're not a lighthouse. You're a mirror, reflecting back the pain people don't want to face. Jung's work reveals something chilling. The empath doesn't always help the wounded. Sometimes they protect the wound. They guard it, enable it, even glorify it. Why? Because healing others becomes their secret identity, their unconscious reason for being, their badge of spiritual honor, and if that identity were to dissolve, who would they be? Jung taught that the psyche always seeks wholeness, but it does so in the most unexpected ways. So if you've spent your life being the empath, ask yourself, who are you without the pain of others? Who are you when no one needs saving? And why does the idea of not being needed make you so afraid? That fear is the crack in the mirror, the opening where the shadow seeps through. The empath, Jung would say, isn't just at risk of burnout. They're at risk of soul loss, of merging so deeply with the chaos around them that they forget the self within. Empathy without boundaries is not compassion, it's possession. And when you are possessed by the pain of the world, you don't heal it, you amplify it. That is the dark truth. That is the warning. And that is where the journey must begin. Not with more feeling, but with more awareness. Because if you don't know whose voice is echoing in your head, it might not be yours at all. What if the part of you that calls itself empathetic is not a strength, but a loophole, a back door left wide open in your soul, where something hidden creeps in and feeds? Carl Jung knew this realm intimately. He didn't just study the unconscious, he entered it, he mapped it. He stood in its storms and returned with warnings. And one of his greatest warnings was this, that what we repress lives on, that what we refuse to face doesn't die, it festers. And for the hyper-empathetic, the danger is not feeling too little, it's feeling too much, without realizing that not all of it is real, not all of it is yours. Because when your boundaries are thin, when your sense of self is undefined, you become a feast for the shadow. Jung described the shadow as the unconscious parts of the psyche, the instincts, emotions, drives, traumas, and shameful elements we exile from the light of our conscious self. But those elements don't go away. They wait. They scheme. They find ways back in, and they especially love to wear masks. One of their favorite masks. Compassion. Yes, compassion. The kind that bleeds without questioning why, the kind that gives without limits, the kind that says yes when the soul is screaming no. This is not true empathy. It is shadow feeding, disguised as virtue. The empath, left unconscious, becomes a shadow carrier. They absorb darkness to protect others from it, but never realize the darkness needed their permission to enter. Think of the empath like a beautifully carved cup, open, deep, ready to receive. But what happens when the cup never gets emptied? What happens when it absorbs not just water, but poison? It cracks, it overflows, and eventually it contaminates. Jung understood that energy is never lost. Psychic energy, like water, must flow or it stagnates. So when you feel everything, but never metabolize it, that energy turns inward. It corrodes, it infects your thoughts, it distorts your intuition. You start thinking every sad person is your responsibility. You start believing that healing others is your life's purpose. And worse, you start needing broken people to feel whole. That's when the shadow has fully merged. Because now, your identity is based on how much suffering you can absorb. You're no longer acting from love, you're acting from a wound. And the wound is in control. Jung warned about this hidden inversion, where the person who appears to be the light bringer is unknowingly fueled by the dark. He wrote that the greater the conscious intention to do good, the more the shadow grows in equal force. Seeking expression, this is the paradox of the unintegrated empath. They seek to help, but secretly need to be needed. They shine for others, but neglect their own inner darkness. They offer healing, but cannot admit they are still bleeding. Do you see it now? The empath, who hasn't done shadow work, is walking through a minefield, barefoot, blindfolded, and smiling, because this isn't about emotions. This is about possession, not by something external, but by an inner complex that hijacks the soul's intention and rewires it for martyrdom. You start to believe, if I'm not helping, I'm worthless. If I walk away, I'm heartless. If I say no, I'm selfish. None of that is true. But the shadow doesn't care what's true. It only cares what works. And it works by guilt, by shame, by cloaking itself in spiritual ideals so pure, you never think to question them. The result, an empath who looks like an angel, but lives like a prisoner. Jung insisted that every virtue, if not integrated with awareness, has a dark mirror, and empathy is no exception. Its dark mirror is codependency. Its dark mirror is emotional self-erasure. Its dark mirror is the illusion of connection without the reality of boundaries. So how do you know if the shadow is feeding through your empathy? Ask yourself, do I feel depleted after helping others? Do I feel guilty when I prioritize my own needs? Do I attract chaos, but call it purpose? Do I mistake drama for depth? Do I avoid my own healing by focusing on everyone else's? If the answer is yes, then the shadow is at work, not to harm you, but to awaken you. Because the shadow is not evil, it is unloved. It doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to be known. But you can't integrate what you keep spiritualizing. You can't reclaim your power if it's buried under 1,000 yeses that should have been no's. And you can't love others fully if you keep abandoning yourself to do it. Carl Jung didn't preach repression. He preached integration. And integration requires confrontation. It requires taking the mask off and looking into the mirror of your own psyche, even if what you see terrifies you, because only then do you stop feeding the shadow unconsciously. Only then do you reclaim your right to feel without being consumed. There's a reason the empath feels so much. It's not because they are broken. It's because they are open. But openness without discernment is a wound. And no matter how noble the intention, a wound that is never healed becomes a portal for darkness to enter and disguise itself as light. So if you are sensitive, if you are a deep feeler, know this: your feelings are sacred, but they are not infallible. They must be filtered through truth, through boundaries, through you, because your soul wasn't born to be a container for other people's pain. It was born to be a catalyst for transformation, not by absorbing more, but by awakening fully. Somewhere along the path, the empath learns to equate love with sacrifice. Not conscious, beautiful sacrifice, but a slow erosion, a daily surrender of the self, inch by inch, until they don't even notice they're disappearing. And Carl Jung saw this happening long before we ever called it empathy. To Jung, this wasn't compassion. It was unconscious self-betrayal. It was the soul making a deal with guilt. And the cost? Your identity, your joy, your life force. Because when you believe that love means absorbing everyone else's suffering, you become addicted to bleeding for people who would never stop to ask if you're okay. You attract takers, wounded wanderers, people who confuse your kindness for weakness and your presence for permission. And here's the tragedy. The more pain they bring, the more you believe it's your job to stay, to fix, to heal, to absorb, to carry, not because you're selfish, but because you can't bear the thought of letting them suffer alone. But Jung would ask, at what point does compassion become self-destruction? At what point are you no longer helping, but enabling? And when did you decide that your suffering is the necessary ingredient in someone else's healing? The answer lies in childhood. The empath often comes from environments where love was conditional, where being good meant being quiet, compliant, and selfless, where their emotions were too loud, too much, too inconvenient, so they learned to shrink, to attune, to feel their way through rooms like shadows. They learned that the fastest way to avoid rejection was to disappear, to become what others needed, instead of who they truly were, and that survival strategy, it becomes their adult identity. The healer, the rescuer, the selfless friend. Like Maya, a nurse I once met, everyone adored her. She brought food to grieving families, stayed late for her patients, remembered every birthday on the ward. But behind that radiant smile, Maya hadn't taken a vacation in 5 years. She hadn't cried in front of anyone since college. She told me once, "If I stop being useful, I'm scared no one will have a reason to love me." And that's when I realized Maya didn't just give to others. She was bargaining with the universe, trading care for belonging, sacrificing herself in quiet, beautiful ways that looked like love, but felt like slow erasure. But inside, something festers. Because they're not just helping people, they're betraying themselves to do it. They abandon their own needs, suppress their own pain, dismiss their own intuition, and call it love. That's not love. That's martyrdom. And martyrdom without meaning is just a slow, spiritual suicide. Jung spoke of the anima and animus, the feminine and masculine energies within us. He knew that when either one is repressed, the psyche fractures. And for many empaths, it's their inner masculine that withers. The force of boundaries, discernment, action. What's left is a distorted, feminine open, giving, intuitive, but powerless. Powerless to protect itself, powerless to say no, powerless to walk away. So instead of wholeness, you get performance, a person who looks kind, but is deeply resentful, who says yes, but dies a little inside every time, who listens deeply, but screams in silence. Jung believed that the greatest tragedy is not when a person is wounded. It's when they become attached to the wound, when they identify with the suffering so deeply that healing it feels like betrayal. Because if they heal, who will they be? And this is where the empath often gets stuck. They want to be free, but freedom would mean facing the terror of not being needed anymore. It would mean letting people go, letting identities go, letting stories go. That's why many empaths don't change, even when they're exhausted, because their suffering has become their sanctuary. Their loyalty to others has become disloyalty to self. And the saddest part, they don't even see it. Jung warned of this exact thing, that when the ego becomes identified with being the good one, the light bearer, or the empath, it creates a split, a schism in the psyche. One side is all light, selfless, compassionate. The other side, the shadow, grows darker, angrier, more volatile, because it's never allowed expression. And eventually, it erupts through burnout, through emotional collapse, through quiet bitterness that poisons every relationship. This is not weakness. This is an alarm. The body is screaming what the soul has been whispering for years. You are not meant to carry this, and yet you keep going, because if you stop, what will happen to them? If you walk away, will they fall apart? Will they think you're heartless? Will they replace you? Will they stop loving you? But here's the deeper question. Why do you think their survival depends on your self-destruction? That's not empathy. That's a trauma bond. That's guilt dressed up as virtue. That's a system you didn't choose, but one you keep perpetuating. Carl Jung's work teaches us this. The real journey is not to feel less. It's to feel rightly, to love from clarity, not compulsion, to give from fullness, not emptiness, to help without disappearing, to see pain and still protect your peace. Because if your compassion costs you yourself, it is too expensive. You do not exist to be a savior. You exist to be whole. And sometimes, wholeness means walking away from people you once saved, so you can finally save yourself. This isn't selfish. This is sacred. Because the world doesn't need more burnt-out empaths, it needs more awakened souls who have faced their shadow, healed their patterns, and chosen themselves, not in ego, but in truth. So if you are tired of being the one who always gives, if you are done bleeding to prove your love, if you are ready to stop betraying yourself for the sake of peace, then listen, you are allowed to rest. You are allowed to protect your energy. You are allowed to choose you because your soul was never meant to be currency for someone else's healing. There's a moment, subtle, quiet, and barely noticed, when the empath stops being a person and becomes a role. They're no longer living as themselves. They're acting as someone else's emotional anchor, a reflection, a balm, a sounding board, but never their true self. Carl Jung called this false self the persona, the social mask we wear to function, to be accepted, to survive in a world that demands performance. For the empath, the persona often looks like kindness, like selflessness, like saintly patience. But underneath it is something more fragile and more dangerous. Because when your entire identity is built around how useful you are to others, your worth becomes conditional. You don't exist for yourself. You exist for what you provide. And so the empath becomes a mirror, reflecting everyone's needs, desires, traumas, fears, not because they're manipulative, but because they've never been taught they're allowed to be real. Real, not perfect. Real, not always pleasing. Real, not endlessly available. But how could they know that, from the beginning, their safety was tied to someone else's emotions? They were taught, through silence or chaos, that love is earned. That being too much gets you abandoned. That being not enough gets you invisible. So they become the exact thing others need. A therapist for their partner, a peacekeeper in their family, a safe space for strangers. And the more they're praised for it, the deeper they fall into the trap. Jung wrote that the persona is a system of behavior which is partially dictated by society and partially by the individual's conscious intentions. But here's the catch. If you identify with the persona too deeply, you lose touch with the authentic self underneath. You become what others see, not who you are. And this is the silent tragedy of the empath. They confuse connection with identity. They think being needed means being loved. They forget that mirrors reflect, but they don't live. So what happens when the mirror cracks? When you're alone and no one needs you? When the phone stops ringing? When your kindness isn't reciprocated? When you finally say no and they walk away? Who are you then? Jung believed this is the point of transformation, the breaking of the false self, the shattering of the illusion that your worth is measured by your emotional labor. It's painful, it's disorienting, but it's sacred. Because it's here, in the emptiness, the silence, the shedding, that you begin to find the self, not the empath, not the fixer, not the caretaker, but the soul underneath all that noise, the self that doesn't need to be liked to feel valuable, the self that can feel deeply without being consumed, the self that knows love is not a transaction, it's a truth that starts within. This is where Jung's concept of individuation comes in, the process of becoming whole, not by rejecting empathy, but by reclaiming the parts of you that empathy pushed aside, your anger, your ambition, your clarity, your right to say no, your desire to be free. Because, let's be honest, some empaths are addicted to chaos, not because they love suffering, but because chaos makes them feel needed. And when you've spent your life feeling invisible, being needed feels like oxygen. But it's not oxygen. It's a drug, a cycle, a loop that keeps you locked in relationships where you're seen, but never truly known. You don't need more people to need you. You need to meet yourself, to ask, what do I want? Outside of anyone else's approval, what do I feel when I'm not absorbing someone else's storm? What do I dream of when I'm not busy holding the weight of the world? These are not selfish questions. They are all our soul questions. They are the beginning of truth. And yes, it's terrifying, because when you drop the role, people will get uncomfortable. Some will call you cold. Others will say, you've changed. And in a way, you have. You've changed from a mirror into a light, from a reflection into a force, from a passive empath into an awakened soul. Jung wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, but that privilege requires shedding masks. And masks, once removed, reveal everything, the beauty and the brokenness. So if you're tired of playing the role, if you're exhausted from being everyone's emotional support, if you feel like a stranger in your own life, good. That's not failure. That's the beginning of freedom. Because your real identity isn't based on how much you give. It's rooted in how deeply you know yourself, how clearly you draw your lines, how fiercely you honor your truth. Not the truth people expect from you, but the truth that whispers from within. So step out of the mirror. Step out of the script. Step into yourself. The world doesn't need another reflection. It needs your radiance, not as a persona, but as the self, whole, sovereign, and finally free. You were never meant to numb your heart to survive. You were never meant to dilute your truth just to keep the peace. And you were never, ever meant to carry everyone else's pain while neglecting your own. Carl Jung didn't want you to feel less. He wanted you to feel more, but from a place of power, not the powerless, chaotic swirl of emotional absorption, but the grounded, sovereign clarity of a soul that knows what is mine and what is not. Empathy, when unconscious, is a leak. It drains you. It makes you porous to the storms of others. But empathy, when conscious, that's a fire. It warms. It burns away illusion. It radiates without collapsing. And that's the path forward. Not to close your heart, but to root it, to stop confusing pain with purpose, to stop mistaking burnout for benevolence, to stop offering yourself on the altar of other people's healing, and call it virtue. Because the truth is, you can't truly love others if you're not anchored in yourself. Not a self built on identity labels, on personas, or on being the strong one, but a self born from within, forged through shadow work, boundaries, and brutal honesty. Jung believed individuation, becoming whole, was the spiritual task of every human life. And for the empath, that task is even more urgent. Because you don't just feel your wounds, you feel the world's, and if you haven't faced your shadow, the world's pain will manipulate you, guilt will control you, neediness will trap you, and love will become your cage. But when you begin to individuate, to listen inward, to claim your anger as sacred, to set boundaries not as walls, but as sacred gates, you start to become dangerous. Not dangerous in cruelty, but dangerous in clarity. Dangerous to every toxic dynamic that once fed off your silence. Dangerous to the patterns that relied on your compliance. Dangerous to the systems that taught you that nice is better than real. You begin to say no, not with shame, but with sovereignty. You begin to walk away, not from love, but from false duty. And you begin to feel again, not as a victim, but as a vessel of truth. That is the empath's awakening. It's not about becoming harder, it's about becoming honest. It's about becoming the kind of soul that can hold space without being swallowed, that can love deeply and still walk away when it's no longer healthy, that can feel pain and still choose peace. Because peace is not the absence of feeling, It's the alignment of feeling with integrity. Jung didn't offer easy answers. He offered mirrors, and the mirror he held to the empath was a ruthless one. Stop hiding behind your gift. Stop performing your pain. Stop spiritualizing your suffering. Stop letting the world convince you that being good means being empty. You are not born to be a container. You were born to be a creator. You are not born to be the background character in other people's healing stories. You were born to become the central figure in your own becoming. That means claiming your voice. That means honoring your no as much as your yes. That means doing the terrifying work of no longer being the one everyone depends on and becoming the one you can finally depend on. You don't owe anyone your constant availability. You don't owe the world your emotional bandwidth. You owe yourself everything you've been giving away. The boundary is the medicine. The self is the healer. And the moment you reclaim your identity from the hands of people who were never meant to hold it, that's the moment the old story dies. Let it die. Let the false self burn. Let the persona collapse. Let the image of the perfect, always there for everyone empath fall away, because something deeper is waiting beneath all that performance. A soul, a center, a voice, a truth. And when that truth begins to rise, you will no longer confuse your worth with your wounds. You will no longer try to rescue others to avoid rescuing yourself. You will no longer be drained by feeling, because now you choose what enters your field. This is what it means to love from fullness, to care without attachment, to serve without self-erasure, to be the empath, not as a role, but as a conscious choice. And that choice, it changes everything. Now, your empathy becomes a force, not a fracture. Your presence becomes power, not performance. And your boundaries become sacred, not selfish. This is the new way. This is the empowered path. This is the integration of the shadow and the light. Because you were never meant to choose between sensitivity and strength. You were meant to unite them, to live from the center of your soul, whole, awake, sovereign. So to every empath listening, you are not broken. You are not weak. You are not too much. You are simply waking up. And when you finally step into the truth of who you are, not the mirror, not the mask, not the martyr, but the integrated, embodied self, the world won't just be healed by your empathy, it will be ignited by your presence. If this message resonated with you, a like, a comment, or a share could help it reach someone who needs it. This is more than a video, it's an invitation. Don't just observe, step into the journey. Your awakening and transformation begin the moment you choose them. Subscribe now and walk it with us at Carl Jung Journey.